Comadres. Welcome to another episode of Comadreando podcast. I'm your host, Marcy. And today we have an amazing guest, Nia, and I will let her introduce herself. Who are you?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Nia Spencer. I am an occupational therapist. Just a little bit more about me. I used to work in the DOE. I worked with the DOE for about maybe like 6 years. I also worked as a contract therapist, and I worked here in the Bronx, and I worked in Florida as a school-based contract therapist. And now I'm finally like just spreading my wings and starting my own thing, because I really felt like working in the schools, everything was so limited.
Yes.
It's like you have 30-minute sessions and it's just like boom, bam, bang, next kid, boom, bam, bang, next kid. And I'm like, there's so much more that needs to be done. And it's not to, poo-poo the school system or, the therapist or the way that things are structured. It's just if you have like 500 kids in a
if you
school,
have a large caseload, it's hard.
It's really hard. So realistically, I used to prefer working with the sixes. So for families that may not know, the sixes, usually those students have like a higher need. Typically nonverbal, and typically, they just need a lot of supports, a lot of supervision. And I would prefer to work with them because I felt like they had the highest need. And it's not to say, the 8s or the 12s don't have a need as well, but the 6s, those are my babies. So it's like having 30-minute sessions twice a week. Like it's just an hour, And like when COVID came about and we went remote, I was able to work from home. I was able to get the, the exemption or whatever it was. And I was able to work from home. And that was really the first time that I was able to like really work with the families. And it was just really amazing. I would have never, because Marcy already sees how I struggle with technology. I would have never, ever imagined working virtually with families. Like it just seems so backwards for me. It's like, what? Behind a computer screen. But with COVID and everything, I really got to see like, wow, like we could really make an impact by virtually entering into someone's homes and like really talking with the families and figuring out like, what's your exact pain point and how can I like best support you through this journey that you are on, So being able to have that level of communication with the families, as well as seeing the kids, in their natural environment, it was just like that really opened up my eyes to see like, wow, like let's do something with this. Like, let's really like, push our way into being more of like a holistic type of therapy versus just seeing the kids for 30 minutes twice a week in the school system,
I really love that holistic approach. It's just, I feel like it's so important. I feel like Aiden really got the most bang for his buck in early intervention because they were in my house. Yeah. Yes, it was a 30-minute session, but you're in the house and you're teaching me as well as him at the same time. And then those things that you're teaching us, we're generalizing in other environments, not necessarily just in that session for those 30 minutes that we're together. So, I like to tell the listeners how we connected. So I started following Nia because I don't know which autism account reposted one of your things, and I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. And I was like listening to your lives and like checking out your reels, and I was like, oh my God, I love her. I was like, I'm gonna bring her on the show because I definitely feel like she can give a lot of resources to parents and support as well. So today's topic, of course, is occupational therapy as a therapy to help children with special needs. And the reason why the topic came about is that there have been parents and specialists on the show that have differing views about OT and what it does exactly and how it works. So, and people question whether or not it's actually beneficial to children, which is ridiculous. But, I entertain everybody's opinion, and I like to provide proof and facts and data. So I want to bring a professional on that it has been in the field for a very long time and has that interest of actually working with our population, which is children of color, and, really seeing them thrive. So you already told us your profession. You're an OT. What made you decide to pursue that career?
Well, All right. So actually, I would have never thought about being an OT. My dad, he's actually a PT. And
Mm.
like even as like a little kid, I would go to work with him. And, like he would like work in nursing homes and I would see the OTs. I'm like, I don't know what they're doing. All I see is I don't know if you guys have ever seen like in the nursing home, they have like this little arc and you'll see like a, you know, a little senior old man like trying to move the ring from one side to the other side. I'm like, I had no idea what OT
Like
was.
an abacus? Oh wait,
I
like
don't
the
know.
rainbow thing with the little balls.
Yeah, and
Got
you
it.
literally it's like rings, and then you have to like it's just trying to work on range of motion with the upper extremities.
Ah,
So,
okay,
but
got
I
it.
didn't know that as a kid. I'm just like, this looks dumb, you know, like literally, like I was just like, what is this? Like, I have no idea what this is. I know what PT is because I see people walking with my dad. So I'm like, okay, there's no question about that. But this OT
Yeah.
thing, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, you know? And I was always fascinated about going into the music industry.
Okay.
So I actually had interned at Atlantic Records, and I hated it. I hated everything about it. I was like, this is not for me. I was like, this environment here, I'm like, this is not it. And once I realized that, I was like, maybe I was going into my junior year at Howard, and I was
Okay.
like, oh shoot, we paid for 2 years of school, and I don't want to do my dream job anymore. So I was like, you know what? Because my degree is in marketing. My original
Okay.
degree is in business marketing. So I was like, you know what? Fine, I'll go into radio. So once I graduated, I started working at CBS Radio.
Okay.
And I was like, this sucks because the pay is so bad. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the hours were terrible. The pay was terrible. I was like, I might as well work at McDonald's, not, you know, talk down about anybody that's working in the fast food industry. I used to work at Domino's. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why did I go to school in
Yeah.
order to still be working and making the same amount of money that I would be making working in fast food?
Sure.
So I was so frustrated, had all this debt, not as much as I have now, but you know, I had all this debt and I was just like, I don't know what to do. I was at like that point where I was like, oh my gosh, I wasted 4 years of my time and I don't like anything that I'm doing. My dad was like, why don't you look into OT? I'm like, what's OT? I'm like, I don't know what that is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So finally I looked into it and in my research, aka my Google search, I was like, wow, so like you're helping people be independent, like the things that we take for granted, because once you're healthy, you know, you have that, you know, level of being like, okay, I can do bad on my own. But what about for people, God forbid, who were in an accident and they lose function in their arm? You know, now it's like your whole life is turned upside down. Or what about those people who are aging and cognitively, you know, they're losing their memory? And how do you maximize their independence for as long as possible? You know, or say with children that have exceptional needs, how do we give them the best life possible with where they're at? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So that's why, you know, once I found out and I actually realized what it was that they were doing, I was like, this right here, this is it. So I went back to school. This was in 20 I graduated Howard in 2011, so I went back to school for OT in 2012, which wasn't too long of a period cuz like when you're not happy with something, you don't need years to realize it, you know? So I went back and graduated from LIU Brooklyn and started working as an OT in 2015. And like I had mentioned, first job, I started working in the schools and I was like, this feels right. You know, this I'm like, this right here, this feels like, you
You're like,
know,
I
it's
love
meant to be.
this.
Exactly. Like it really became like a family. And even though I don't have my own children, when you work with kids, those are your babies, you
Yes.
know? Those really are your babies. Like you become so emotionally
Attached.
invested in their well-being, and it's like when you finally do get to meet their parents, it's like, oh my gosh, you made them. You know? Good job, you know. So it's just like a type of profession where not anybody could work with exceptional needs children. Like for you, I give you so much credit, Marcy, because working as a special ed teacher, you guys don't get enough credit. You know, you guys really don't get enough credit. And I'm giving you your flowers where the
Thank you.
flowers are due.
I started in a 6 as well, and I feel like as a teacher, yeah, you don't you didn't I don't do it for the recognition, because if it was that, I wouldn't be teaching.
Yeah.
But I do love, my payoff, my biggest payoff is like seeing the look of comprehension in their eyes when I'm explaining something that just like hits my heart. I'm like, yes, this is what I do it all the time. But I like, yeah, like, did you start in District 75 or community school?
I've always actually no, I'm lying. When I had first, because when I actually no, when I first started, I was in D75,
Okay.
and that's when I was a contract therapist. And then when the DOE called, because I was able to get the scholarship, which was like
Wow.
even like an additional layer of I'm in the right place at the right time,
Oh.
And so once the DOE called, it was like, all right, we're ready to start. I did coverage for an OT who was on medical leave. So I worked 6 months in a community school.
Okay.
And honestly, I really didn't enjoy the community school.
I feel like the OT, it's just a sensory gym in general in District 75 is like Wonderland. Like literally, it's like Alice in Wonderland. You have all the things that you need. I feel like the OTs in the community schools, unless the school specifically invested money into their OT room, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Like I worked for P94, which is located in the Lower East Side on like in Manhattan, and their sensory rooms were insane. Like all kinds of therapy, like all the toys, like all the things, and the OTs didn't have to put any of their own money because the funding was used properly and allocated for the supplies that they needed.
Must be nice. I've only worked in the Bronx, so I've only seen
that's cool. If you get a chance to go and visit, their buildings for the most part are new, and then like all the newly constructed sensory rooms are chef's kiss.
Wow.
Yeah. So what made you work? Because the thing is, you had different options of working with different populations. So what made you pick special needs kids specifically?
Honestly, like when I had the contract, I didn't even ask many questions as to like what age, whatever. Like when you're working with an agency, it's like, okay, we're sending you here. This is where the highest need is. And I'm small. I look young, I'm 33, but I look like I'm 12. So whenever I was in the high school, it almost had like a weird sense of like I can kind of relate to the kids in a way. For the little ones, they're really struggling with like emotional regulation, and it's harder. It's harder to work with the younger kids for myself. Other people, they love it. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. But the older kids, the teenagers, I felt as though they kind of were in their own skin by this point. Yes, you are dealing with hormones. That's a whole nother ball game. But for the most part, it's like they have like a better sense of like regulation versus the little ones. The little ones, they're just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Where am I? It's a lot. It's a lot. Because even for myself, like, and mind you, I'm neurotypical, but even for myself in kindergarten, I was a runner. Like if I didn't want to be there, I'm out.
You're like, I'm out. You're like,
I'm
this
out.
is
Like,
nice. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
I would twice. I ran out the building.
What did the teachers do?
Actually, I feel as though the teachers were more of just like, oh shoot, that could have gotten really bad.
Yeah.
One time in pre-K, I actually kind of like wandered around the building, and the teachers, they never took it out on me because I think they realized like we could have really gotten into some serious trouble. It was more of like the teachers yelling at each other, like, oh my gosh, you didn't know where these kids were. Da, 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 da. But I was definitely the type of child, if I didn't want to be somewhere, I'm going, I'm leaving. Goodbye.
No, and
so now,
go ahead.
So it's like, so now imagine I can at least advocate for myself. I may not say I'm leaving. I may just show you, but it's like I'm a neurotypical child. Now imagine for a child that has like sensory overload, and they don't know how to communicate it. They don't know what they can do about it, and it's just like a sense of like helplessness. And I feel terrible for them.
I was gonna say that people used to be like, people used to ask me like, oh, why do you go teach in sneakers? Why don't you like wear heels and stuff? You're a fancy teacher. I'm like, listen, when these little kids decide that they are no longer gonna be in my classroom, I need to bolt and I need to be able to run and fast. Like, not on my watch. Like, not on my watch. I am not losing a kid. Nothing. But I can totally relate. During the pandemic, you kind of saw what it was like to have a virtual program and help in a different kind of way and help the child as a whole. So what inspired you to create this amazing program that is Spectrum Lingo?
That's a very loaded question. So initially I had sometimes I get like visions of like glimpses of the future, and I saw myself teaching young adults, autistic young adults, and I don't know what I was teaching them, but I knew I was in a classroom setting with them. And that always sat in the back of my mind, and I just didn't know how to execute it. My plan was always like, okay, I'm going to give the DOE 10 years and then I'll be vested and da 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 da. That was always my plan. And then I'll see about this whole idea. And then once everything happened, like with COVID, I was like, you know what? Time's now. Mm-hmm. And that was like really like the push for myself, that was a push that I needed. And after that, it was just like everything keeps falling into place. Like I put it in my mind, okay, I need this, whether like the Spectrum Lingo program, it's video-based lessons. And you already know, Marcy, I'm not techie. So I needed help when it came to filming everything. Like, I purchased a new phone, before I had my iPhone 8, because I'm the type that it's like, as long as it's working, I'm keeping it. I got a new phone because I was like, okay, maybe I could like video and whatnot. And I was like, this is not the quality that this population deserves. This population deserves the right quality. They deserve the best. So how can I put myself in a position where I can give them what they deserve? And I put it in my mind, and literally, like, I ran into a guy. His name is Uwe Abraham. He owns his own tech platform, his own online tech platform. And I told him, I was like, look, this is what I have in mind. I want to teach teens and young adults that are autistic teens and young adults social skills. I have all the lessons here already. I have them all written out. I just need help. Can you, point me in the right direction? He was like, I have my own company. Like, we have our own studio. We have everything you need. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So once I met up with him, which was literally like, it was destined for me to like meet him. His son is autistic. So his son is 14. His son is also 14 years old. Wow. And when he heard what I was looking to do, he was like, I'm going to help you. Let's do this. I'm going to help you. So he was able to give me a bargain because, the DOE is not paying that much money now. So he was able to give me a bargain. I'm no longer working with the DOE, but he was able to give me a bargain, and he worked with me, and we hired actors. I really enjoyed directing the scenes. Like, everybody was saying, like, you make a really good director. I was like, so it's a mixture of me explaining what the topic is. We have like different picture examples. We had the actors acting out different scenes. It's really a dope program. And like when you're just so busy, you just like in the mix, you're just like, all right, you're just kind of grinding it out. When I actually went through everything, because it's not even just videos, like we also have activities, there's quizzes, there's different prompts, different writing prompts, and when I was going through everything from top to finish, that was 24 lessons. I had to cut it. 24 lessons. I was like, oh, shoot. Oh, this is really good. Yo. I was like, wow, this is really, really good, because the lessons, they tie in to one another and they build on one another. Wow. So since it's teaching social skills, we broke it in. I'm always going to say we, but it's just me. So we broke it up into 3 sections. We broke it up into cognitive, social skills, because you have to know, like, what are the rules when I am trying to talk with someone? Like, what am I supposed to say? What is not appropriate? What is appropriate? things that we take for granted. And of course, we still mess up. We say things that are not appropriate. And then we have the social skills, which is understanding like, hey, if you're trying to build on having a conversation, why don't you lean towards open-ended questions? And we teach you
Yes.
how to ask more open-ended questions and like just trying to teach kids, teens, adults how to stay on topic. Because it's very easy to talk about what you want to talk about. But if
Yes.
someone asks you to say, hey, how was your day? And you start talking about your favorite TV show, like that's great that you love your show. However, that's not answering the topic. That's not talking about what is like the topic of the conversation. Talk
Dude,
about
this is
that.
so important.
And
I love
I
it.
know. And then we talk about the emotional skills, because we are such emotional creatures. Like as humans, we are very, very emotional. And we teach the students not only about identifying what an emotion looks like, but how does that feel? When your engine is starting to run and you're getting anxious, how does that feel so that you can identify it? And then we teach strategies on how to self-regulate. So
Wow.
if you're in a new environment and you're starting to get stressed out, what is then like the appropriate thing for you to do? Whether it's deep breathing, whether it's, progressive muscle relaxation or deep squeezes, we incorporate all of that. And literally, Marcy, I kid you not, the way that this program just flows so well together, I'm like, this wasn't me, Marcy. Like, I'm telling you, like, I don't know if you're religious, if you're
Girl, that
spiritual,
was Jesus. It was
but
like, whew, there we go.
exactly, like it all is that I'm guided, like I'm being guided and I'm being obedient as a child of the Most High. And I'm just following, like, this is what needs to be done. And you have the power to do it. You have the power to help families. And like the time is now. Like it's been long enough that it's like this population is not getting the supports and the attention that they need. It's like,
Yes.
I had put on the Instagram. I sound so old. I'm like on the Instagram.
On the
On
Instagram.
Instagram.
You're like a
That
little old
they did it.
person. I can't.
I had posted that they did a research study this summer, the JAMA. It's like a psychiatry type study, and
Journal of Adolescent something, whatever, association.
yeah,
That one.
yeah. They had released that this summer. They said the rates of autism diagnosis is now 1 in 33.
Girl.
The CDC is still sticking with the 1 in 44. However, you and I both know that in our schools, especially in D75, not even just D75, because even when I was working in Gen Ed contract earlier this year in Florida, I'm like, the amount of classes that are needed for just autistic students, it's literally like, it's mind blowing. It is mind blowing. And I know some people, they'll say, oh, well, it's just because they're diagnosing it better. I'm like, no, these children, they're not like borderline. Like, oh, I wouldn't have really assumed,
No,
but
it's like
now that I'm testing
they're
you, it's like, no,
autistic.
it's very like clear that they are autistic. So, being that this is becoming so common, unfortunately, that it's being so common, what are we going to do about it? Like, it's very easy to say, oh, this is causing it, that's causing it. I'm sure there's a lot of things that's causing it. I'm not going to get into that. But at the end of the day, we're here now.
Yeah.
And let's support the families. Let's support the children. Let's figure out how we can get this information to help families thrive and be empowered, So even I don't mean to ramble, but I have three things that I'm launching next month. And the first is that I'm doing a free webinar. And the free webinar is specifically to help parents and caregivers from burnout.
Yes. That's the whole goal of this season for this show.
Yeah. It's like people need support. And a lot of times it's like you want to give because this is your child, or if it's your niece, your nephew, whatever the relation may be, you want to give and give and give and give and give. However, is your cup even like, does it have any substance left to give? It's very easy to get lost in just giving and forgetting to pour back into yourself. So I'm doing a free webinar on this to help families and caregivers be empowered and to regain health, you know? 'Cause
Yes.
if you health is wealth, you know, if you don't have health, what you working with?
Yeah,
You
we
know?
worry so much about our kids' health, right? Mental health and everything. But then how can you be at your optimal when you're not pouring back into yourself? It's
Yeah,
impossible.
it
And this
really
is what
is.
I've been teaching the parents in the through the show is that you need to take a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes for yourself. Like it's not selfish. There is no it's actually better for your child. When you're there's scientific studies. I'm not gonna quote like some random numbers, but I don't have them with me. But it's scientifically proven that when your parent is happy, healthy, and in a good mental health space, you as a child have a better childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So it is in your best interest for you to pour back into yourself and help yourself avoid caregiver burnout. I actually interviewed, there's a documentary that is being screened right now, and it's called Unseen, How We're Failing Parent Caregivers and Why It's Important. I'm misquoting the name of the film, but it's literally about that, about parent caregivers and how we as a society are failing them because we're not providing enough supports for them. And I love the fact that you're doing that for these parents because it's and free, girl. Bye.
Free.
You know I'm gonna be posting
I'm having
every other day.
I'm having trouble with getting the information out there because I literally just got on social media this July. I
I can
was
help you with that.
peacefully living my life. I was just very happy, you know, just mind my business. So starting from zero, I'm like, I want to share this information out, but it's, you know, I'm doing what I can, but if you can definitely help me get the word out. Like it's free. And we're going to be talking about nutrition, exercise, positive thinking. Like
Mhm.
mindset is so important. We're going to talk about that. Did I mention sleep patterns?
No, you
And
didn't.
it's just okay, yeah. So sleep patterns, and these are just like things that we just are just like, okay, yeah, whatever, yeah, I'll go to sleep when I can. It's like,
Mhm.
no, you need rest. You need to go to sleep. Like, if your child, I know a lot of children that are autistic, they battle with cycles of insomnia.
Girl, I did a whole sleep episode about that, about how they can help the kids put their day to rest. You know, like giving them tips and tricks. Because the thing is, listen, when I'm not sleeping, nothing is happening in my house. Like I literally get into like full depression mode because I can't function
You can't
without sleep.
function. Yeah. Like your mood becomes sour when you're tired.
You don't want to deal with your kids. And you imagine me being a special education teacher, not sleeping, and then coming home to deal with a child on the spectrum too. Even
It's
though
a lot.
Aiden's very independent now, like
Mhm.
that I
But
would
he's
have been in,
14 now, you
yeah,
know?
I would have been in the mental institution. Seriously.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, especially with women, there's so many women that are, you know, single moms. And I had actually spoken about this. So it's like I don't know if you got to see one of the posts. I had did a panel discussion in Atlanta. Free. Free again, free. And we were talking about how so yeah, a lot of relationships they end up becoming fractured, but it's
Become,
due to parents being burnt out. Like when you really look at it, like that's the reason. Like when you're tapped out, you can't
girl,
give
that makes
to
sense.
the other person because you're on E. Whatever reserves you have, you're trying to pour that into the child, you know? So it's like everything's literally everything falls apart based off of where you are mentally, emotionally, physically. If you're run down, you know, everything else is going to fall to the wayside.
Yo, you just like highlighted something. My brain just exploded right now, seriously. Because there's so many moms that are single moms that are moms of children with special needs. It's actually for me, I
Mhm.
was talking about this with the directors of the documentary. It for me it's been rare to find a
Yeah.
two-parent household for children on the spectrum.
Mm.
And I've been working with them for over 9 years. There has to be some kind of research study like leading up to that. But like what you're saying is making complete sense. They're stressed. They don't know how to mitigate that. And then the relationships end up falling to the wayside because they haven't taken time to really like feed into
Yeah.
themselves and like
It's
help
so
themselves
important.
get
It's
back to
so,
center.
so important. But I feel as
Wow.
though I don't know if there's a stigma, to admit that you're burnt out. Because again, I'm not a mother, so I can't speak on behalf of, that experience. But I just really wonder if mothers don't want to even admit that they're burnt out. Like, would they associate that with being a bad mom? I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's that I feel honestly people don't know the signs of burnout. And then the thing is that especially our generation and maybe the generation before us, we saw our parents struggle all the time. I had people that I knew in my mom's social circle that used to beat the crap out of their kids, and it was that they were burnt out and they couldn't deal with the children's behavior. The behavior wasn't that severe, but it was normalized behavior. So it's like, the parent is all the way stressed out. They're dealing with economic issues, societal pressures. A lot of them, especially me, because I'm, first generation here, they're dealing with immigration issues and other things that are going on in society. The parents are not taking care of themselves and in turn are lashing out against their children. And it ended up being that they were resentful of their children. So those kids are now the kids, our generation, that are working on all those passed down traumas, and, we didn't see people going to therapy when we were kids. We didn't see people doing self-care for themselves for the most part, especially coming from, communities of color. Like that wasn't a thing. So I feel like maybe they just don't know how to recognize the signs of burnout right now. So honestly, I feel like a lot of the moms, I've interviewed a lot of moms on this show and I love them so much. Like, and I always ask this question is like, what does self-care look like for you? So even if they're not doing it, I want them to kind of think about it and put that little seedling in their head for them to, really start taking care of themselves, because it doesn't serve anybody for us to continue to pour in and not take not so pour into somebody else and not pour into ourselves.
You are important too, you are valuable too. So I think we're really onto something good. I feel like we're really onto something positive where it's like we're getting this information out. And even if people may not be as receptive to it, at least it's planting those seeds, like let's plant those seeds and let's show people like, you know what, you're not alone. And that, you're doing a good job. You're doing the best that you can. And even though it's like people always want to strive for perfection, but like what human being is perfect? Nobody is, you're doing the best that you can. Nobody. And it's like you've gotten this far. Like this life journey is not easy. It's not easy at all, but it's like you made it to today. You're still alive. Your child is still alive. And as long as there's still breath running in and out of both of your lungs, it's like, I give you credit. But, I think as time goes, I think people will be able to better identify and take those steps into serving themselves as well.
Eventually, it's going to get to a point that we're not going to need to remind people to do self-care or to take, pour into themselves. But in the meanwhile, we're going to be the soldiers and the advocates for that. So what are the other two projects you're working on? So we have that live webinar, and then what else are you working on?
And for the webinar, if people want to sign up for tickets, go to spectrumlingo.com and the webinar information is there. It's going to link you to Eventbrite. So I'm actually going to tell you a little secret. All right. So I've been working on a wellness daily planner and journal. Now, with this, it's actually going to be a free gift. So everybody that is signing up for the webinar, they're going to get a free ebook. Because it's the season of giving. We just giving stuff out, So in this daily planner and journal, it's not even just that. Like, based on the webinar, there's going to be tips and strategies. That's already going to be written in the ebook itself, in the book. You can you could do print to order as well. But literally, it's going to be like a daily checklist as to like, how are you taking care of yourself? Did you get any exercise? How many hours of sleep did you get last night?
Wow.
What are your 3 priorities? And the 3 priorities of the day, the first one is always gonna be you. I put that on every single page. You are the first priority. And then remember, we're talking about mindset on each day. It also puts what are 3 things that you're grateful for, you know? So it's just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then also on each page, because it's like one page is the wellness check-in, and then the next page is the journal. So it's like whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that you are carrying, write it down. Just let it go. Like, don't take that with you into the next day. So if you're going to do the journal every night, let that day go. Like, it's done. There's no rewind, there's no reset. Just let it go. Write it down and let it go.
Put it to rest.
And this way, when you start the next day, you're not carrying the weight from your past into the future. You let it go. You heal from it, you grow from it, and you just let it go. So that's the second thing that that's I'm still putting that together, but that's gonna be complete before the webinar. The webinar is on December 10th. And like I had mentioned, the ebook is gonna be a free gift for everybody. So that's going to be done. And then the third thing, which is actually the most important thing that I haven't spoken about because I haven't like officially launched it, is remember that panel discussion that we had in Atlanta? We're finishing
Yeah.
up the editing
And I
of
like
that now. And literally, it's 3 hours worth of information for anybody that's going through this journey with having a child that is autistic. And it's called My Child Has Been Diagnosed with Autism. Now what? So you have myself as the OT. You have a
thank
speech
you.
therapist. She actually works with the DOE. She works in Queens. She's worked with the DOE for over 30 years or 27 going on 30 years, whatever. We have a BCBA, which is a behavioral specialist, and we
Mm-hmm.
have an amazing, dope mom that has the same guy, his wife. So it's a mom that has a 14-year-old that is autistic,
Oh, okay.
and we're literally talking about everything about autism. So the first steps, what you need to do, get that early intervention. We talk about, the stresses with having this diagnosis and it making, causing a strain in relationships. We talk about that. We talk about, is it sensory or is it behavior? It's always a
Wow.
dispute. It's like, oh my gosh, what is it? What is it? We talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I didn't even know was an issue, because working as a school base in New York City, like at least in my school, I don't know, maybe in the Bronx, maybe it's different in the city, but in the Bronx, we don't really deal with ABA. Like that's like something that's just like, okay, I've heard of it, but you don't really see them being integrated in the school system at all. So,
Yeah, not in the community schools.
mhm,
Because what the first thing they do once the kids turn 5 is that they take the ABA off the IEP because we don't have any ABA therapists
mhm,
that are school based. There's some schools in District 75
mm,
that operate on an ABA model.
mhm.
However, the teachers are not certified ABA
Oh, I
therapists,
see, I see.
but they use that approach in the teaching aspect. So we used to do
Mhm,
like a checklist of first we would pair with the students, right? We would figure out what
mhm,
really motivated them, right? We would do an interest survey with parents. Then we would like sit with the kid literally like for the first hour on the first day and just kind of like offer
mm,
them toys and figure out what is it that they like. Once we would figure that out, then we would come up with programs and
mm.
teach in a way that uses that ABA methodology. But we were
Okay.
prohibited from using food as a reinforcer. So, this is the big debate of ABA. A lot of people have issues with ABA because they feel like you're treating your kid
Mhm.
like a dog and you're like just feeding them treats before doing good behavior, which is not, that is not proper ABA.
No, it's such a new profession that yes, there's so many things that need to be, adjusted and can improve on. And we spoke about that. We speak about these things, and we also
Mhm.
talked about how to find an ethical ABA center. Because you have a lot of the autistic adults. I don't know if they have an actual diagnosis or not, but a lot of the autistic adults, they have been sounding off about ABA. They've been like, this caused me harm. This was traumatizing. ABA needs to be abolished. It should only be
Traumatizing.
speech and OT. And I'm like, wait a minute. Speech and OT, we don't deal with behaviors, we don't. So we talked about how to find a place that is going to benefit versus cause your child harm. It's like so many topics that we discuss, even like self-care hacks. There's a lot of underlying sensory components when it comes to self-care, where you have a lot of children that don't like to brush their teeth or they don't like to take a shower. And it's sensory related. It's not that they, just don't want to do it. It's like it literally causes them stress. So we spoke about so many things. Like I said, 3 hours worth of information. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to launch this course, because it's not a course, but it's like to launch this program, because once people actually see, and like I sent it out to a few families actually for free, because I was like, just check it out. Let me know what you think about it. And the feedback has been like, oh my gosh, how did you pull this off? And I was like, we just meshed so well together. Like the four of us, we meshed so well together. And it was like our hearts are in it, you know? So hopefully, I would like to start selling that
Yeah.
before the end of this year. It's definitely on the website, spectrumlingo.com for pre-order. Like I said, I'm still editing it because I'm a perfect. Actually, I'm not editing it. I'm telling people like, can you edit this for me, please? But I'm still making sure that the quality is A1, because like I said, like this population deserves the best, you know? So hopefully, I think by the end of this week, it should be done. However, if people want to purchase it, by all means, head over to spectrumlingo.com and you can purchase it. And I'm considering,
Yes, I agree with that.
I have to really figure out how to market it so that people can understand like how valuable it is. And that it's like,
I feel like you should name it like Autism 101. Literally Autism 101 and beyond, or something like that. And then the way you were talking and my brain was like compartmentalizing it into like those different topics that you have. Each thing would be like let's say self-care, and then then you would do like ABA, whatever.
yeah, it
Like
is.
each topic, like break it up
Mhm.
into like whatever what it is. Okay, so then I
Mhm.
think you got it. All you got to do is just package it
Yeah.
the right way
That's
and
why I
then
was like,
figure
I
out a
sent it
price
out to
point.
a few families. I was just like, watch this. Let me know what you think. And I was like, this needs to get out to as many people as possible, because it's, gone are the
Yes.
days where you have to like be searching on Google, or trying to find your cousin's friend's niece's neighbor who's diagnosed with autism to find out information from them. It's like, no, we did
Yeah,
everything. Like it's all together. It's packaged in a bow, you know?
I love that, because the thing is, like, I can tell you right now, had I had something like that when I first had my son diagnosed, it would have been a completely different song. Even though I feel like I did a lot of the legwork and I got a lot of the resources and the things, because like I was so open and honest with everybody, and I was just like, "Yo, do you know anybody?" Da 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 da. Hopping from person to person. Some people don't feel like that. That like they don't feel like they can, that they have the capacity to express themselves, or mentally they're not in that state where they
Yeah.
feel like they can reach out to somebody. So this is like, I feel like it's gonna be,
It's
you
just
have
getting it
gold,
out there,
literally
but
gold.
it's like at the end of the day, I my heart is literally to help families, like that's the goal, and there's such a high need. There's such a high need. So it's like, this is my
Yes.
contribution. This is my way of like giving back, and like just, especially in our communities, that it shouldn't be a information desert. Like it doesn't make any sense, it truly doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, no, no.
Mhm.
I was gonna say that when you were speaking before, that you were saying how everything's just happening in a certain way, and I was gonna tell you that when you are in alignment and you're serving your purpose here on earth, that is what happens. So like right now, I can tell you right now, like I'm just feeling called to tell you that you are in your purpose and you're like reaching your potential and you're like fulfilling your what you're supposed to be doing here. So if you
I
needed to hear
appreciate
that,
it. I
I'm
really
telling you.
do.
So I was gonna ask you, can you share one of the most fulfilling parts of your job?
It's hard because sometimes when people give me compliments, I don't. like I don't even know how to explain it, but like sometimes people
You don't
say
know how
like,
to
wow,
accept
like
them.
Nia, like that really helped me. Like what you did really, really helped me. And I'm just like, but I
Like, same
but
old
it's like
thing.
I'm always like I don't know. Like I don't know if it's like a sense of like being humble or not. I'm not a boasty type of person. So it's like honestly one of the most fulfilling things is when my kids, I know my kids, when my kids, especially those that are nonverbal, when they give like that, like they'll touch like your hand and like they'll give you a look like thank you, and I can't explain it. I can't explain it, but like
Oh
when
my
they like reach for
god,
you, like
yes,
it
I
could
know
be
what
just
you're
like
talking
touching your
about.
shoulder and like looking at you and just like
You're like, BRB crying.
so that is one of the most fulfilling things. And that's why I really go so hard for, these babies. No, they're twice my height,
Yes, I
but
love that.
like that's truly what it is. It's like you don't need words. Because words, people can say a lot of things, but by like that I don't know if it's like an energy transference, but like when my kids who are nonverbal can like express their gratitude, that's what does it for me.
Yay, I love
Mhm.
that. So I know you have 3 projects that you told us about, but what do you envision for Spectrum Lingo like in the next 5 years? Like, what is your ultimate goal?
Okay, so
Sounds like an
that's a good
interview question, but
reposition.
like, hmm.
So I know it's a little overwhelming because there's a lot that goes on in my brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the actual Spectrum Lingo program is for the social skills. It's
Mm-hmm.
complete. I just haven't launched it,
Okay.
right? So this initial one is in regards to self-care. I'm not sorry, in regards to social skills, sorry.
Okay.
The other two is going to be on work readiness as well as community integration. They're
Yeah.
already written up. I just need the funding. I
Yes.
need the funding to like film it and do it right. So ideally, I want those wrapped in a bow, nicely, presented. And I want to get these programs into the school systems
Yes, girl.
because it's good. And I don't see anything else that is comparable.
No.
Humble brag.
No, we don't. We
We don't have.
literally don't have
We don't
anything.
have. Exactly. We don't have.
Unless
And
the school takes an initiative to teach the kids that, there's nothing. There's nothing.
exactly. So, like I said, everything's written up because originally the Spectrum Lingo program was going to be 72 lessons.
Okay.
And everybody was like, whoa. And I was like, but this has to be done. They don't have it. We got to get it done now. And it's like, no, not all at once.
Like, slow
So
your roll.
reel it back in. So hopefully, like I applied for a few grants as well. And if you know of any other, or if you have any sponsors that that want to tap in, I'm all ears. But yeah, definitely packaging those three and licensing it into the schools, right? I want to continue doing a lot more outreach. Like if there's different community groups, parent groups, I definitely want to continue with that project as well. I am also a certified life coach now, and I'm breaking it up into 3 tiers. So one is that you have for the caregivers, right? So you have caregiver wellness coach, right? So if parents just
Okay.
need like a better uh, sense of how do I empower you to be your best self or,
Mm-hmm.
just to achieve wellness, achieve balance in your life, right? And then also as an autism life coach. Now, this is specifically for those transitional years because
Mm-hmm.
whether you're graduating at 18 or you're graduating at age 21, this world is not easy to transition into. And this is even for neurotypical children. It's not an easy transition. So now imagine dealing with, the salt and pepper of having an autism spectrum diagnosis, or even if you have whatever other neurodivergencies that you have going on. Transitioning into adulthood is hard. And that's
Yes.
where I want to tap in because I love this age group. I love like, the older
Mm-hmm.
kids and whatnot. So that is also what I'm offering. And then the third one is when you're going through the Spectrum Lingo program, if you want additional one-on-one help to coach you through each lesson and to give you additional activities or, just to help just get you through, that is also a third tier. So within the 5 years or just as soon as possible, those are things that I definitely want to get up and running. If people want to sign up for coaching, they can do so now on the website. I offer a free 15-minute consultation to see if this is even in line with like what you're expecting. Because if people are expecting to get online OT, it's too much liability.
Okay.
It's too much liability. But coaching, I can do.
Sure.
Consulting, OT consulting, I can do. But to actually say like, okay, I'm going to treat you virtually with OT is too much liability. You can't properly evaluate a child through the computer. It's one thing like if you're in person, you evaluate and then you have some sessions online. But if everything's going to be virtual, you can't properly evaluate a child. So, and then you can't properly like even assess their progress if you're not really there because you don't know what other environmental factors are in play. Are the parents helping? Like, are the parents coaxing? And I don't know. Yeah. So OT consultations I will do, but coaching, that's the wave that I want to work towards.
Oh my God, guys, seriously, I'm like obsessed. I'm like so proud. First of all, I feel like your big sister. I am obsessed with you because you're like young and like you have all these ideas going on and I just see it happening for you. So you are a busy, busy woman. So what does self-care look like for you, ma'am?
So one of the most important things, and I wasn't able to do it this Sunday because I was in an all-day, 3-day training. I always take Sundays as my Sabbath.
Okay.
Sundays always I dedicate to getting recentered and just taking the time out to just be with God. Not that it's a separation, but I just take that time to truly, truly just pray, meditate, read, just completely recenter. That's what I do, right?
Yeah.
Typically during the week, especially like starting my own business, I kid you not, like I've never worked this hard in my life. And I've worked 7 days before. I've had 3 jobs at one time. And this is a whole different breed. And I'm not complaining, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weary because legit, I'm usually in front of a computer about 12 to 13 hours a day, just getting things done. And every time I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been this busy. Another idea comes and I'm like, oh gosh, more things to put on the to-do list, So for me, to keep me going, I am in the bed I usually like right now this season, because I'm launching everything very soon, I'm getting to the bed a little bit later, but I always make sure I get between 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I don't play when it comes to sleep. I don't play. So even if I'm not getting into the bed until midnight, not getting into the bed until midnight, I always make sure I get enough sleep. Like I don't set an alarm clock. I naturally like just wake up with the sun, but it's like I do not set an alarm clock because it's like, no, if my body needs to rest a little bit longer, then let it rest a little bit longer,
Yeah, of course.
When your body's ready to transition into the wake state, then good, let's go. And in the mornings, I always start off with reading something positive. Whether right now I'm reading a new book. It's not really it's just on mindset. It's called Think and Grow Rich. I'm reading that now.
Okay.
And I usually like to listen to positive things, positive speakers in the mornings just to get that mindset right. Because if you don't got the right mindset in the morning, your whole day is just like, it's hard. It's definitely hard. What else do I do? Exercise. I've definitely fallen off with exercise the past 2 weeks. Because I've been very overwhelmed like these past 2 weeks, but that was something that I was doing daily. It was just like 5-10 minutes a day, but that was something that I was dedicated to doing. But I have to admit, I did fall off with that. But yeah, my sleep and mindset, I don't play when it comes to that.
Good. I love that. So I'm going to end the show here. Oh my God, Nia, it was such a pleasure to have you on. And I'm so glad that we connected. And I see a lot of projects in the future for us together.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end the show how I usually end it, which is follow me at Comadreando Pod on Instagram. And you can follow Nia on IG at, can you please drop your handle?
Spectrum Lingo. So Lingo, Lingo, Spectrum Lingo.
Awesome. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Please visit our website to catch up on the latest blog posts at www.comadreandopod.com and find out about future events. Get your official Comadre merch. I will definitely be writing a blog post regarding Nia's launching of the program and all of that, and also the free webinar that's going to be coming up on December 10th. Thank you for spending time with your comadres. You're now officially a comadre, Nia. So welcome to the club.
Yes, thank you.
And have a great day. Take care, everyone. Bye.
For Comadre time.